thanks for stopping by the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you check out the little bell icon so that you can ensure that you're getting all of the notifications for when I do videos. There will be many more to come in days and weeks and months to come. If anybody in South Dakota is watching, I'd still like to be sponsored by the state of South Dakota, where freedom is still free. And government servants recognize their role. Yeah, I did it. So today's video is about a letter that Jack Brzobiak received, and he shared it on his Twitter feed. I would encourage you all to go and follow Jack. He has some really good content, and he doesn't pull punches. So check him out. It's worth your time. So, and someday I'll be back on Twitter as well, and maybe even Facebook, but we'll see. We'll see how things play out here over the next few days to weeks. Anyway, this letter that Jack received was from a longtime member of the Air Force. He was instructed to report his fellow Air Force members if he suspected them of extremism. But they had to change the definition of extremism so that they could kind of force these examples of extremism into the narrative. And the reason that this is important, before I read this letter that Jack received, the reason that this is so important is because the military and in many other services that are oath takers have become proving grounds for social justice narratives, for woke culture, for leftist ideology. And so what's happening now is that they're inculcating this mentality and this thought process into the military and other service areas in the public sector, where you must toe the right line or you will be shut down. You will be drummed out of service. You will be silenced and whatnot. And so I'm going to read this letter that Jack received to you. And once again, please go check out Jack. Follow him on Twitter if you don't already. I think you'll find his stuff is phenomenal. So here's the letter. And I'm going to read it as is. I don't want to edit it as I'm reading. So just remember that I'm reading the letter as it is, and keep in mind the content and what is being said. Okay. So I have been in for 19 years, and this is the second time I have been embarrassed to be in the service. The first was when we did a useless stand down for all the suicides and did nothing afterwards to actually take care of people, and then now this. The only example of extremism that was presented was of right-wing extremist groups or white supremacy groups. January 6th was called an insurrection and sedition, while the summer of 2020 was called George Floyd protest. I only spoke when called upon by my commander during our small group session, and because my responses didn't fit the narrative of the training, we moved on to the next point quickly after I was done talking. When our leadership team small group was asked if we had ever witnessed extremism in the service, all of us have 15 plus years, the resounding answer was no. The dialogue then switched to change the definition of extremism so that we would have to include sexual discrimination, abuse, or LGBT discrimination as forms of extremism. I pushed back in this expanded definition, but we were then re-asked if we had seen extremism in our service with the appropriate definition. We all still pushed back and said no, but that we have seen discrimination, yet we all called that not what extremism is defined as in our books. We were then provided means to report extremist behavior and given examples of seeing people's Facebook pages or Twitter feeds to report of it doesn't feel right up the chain or to IG. We were basically told to not directly ask the person, solve at lowest level, Instead, an investigation would need to happen with OSI to clear someone. I, along with a few others, objected to this premise and stated that makes us big brother, as opposed to wingmen, and this will erode our military trust. We were ignored, and the definition was stated to us again. And the means to report was reiterated and emphasized. I retire on blank of next year, and these past few months make it very abundantly clear I'm getting out at the right time, which is sad. I have 4 kids, and none of them will serve under these political conditions. So I want you to understand that here's a person who's going to have over 20 years of active duty in the Air Force, telling his children, do not serve in the United States military. That should terrify you, Americans. I know longtime members of the law enforcement community who have children, and they're telling their kids, don't serve in law enforcement. Don't join. Minneapolis PD is bleeding out right now and have been ever since June of 2020. Other law enforcement agencies are bleeding out. Long-time solid officers are just done. They're done. Military members are not re-enlisting. They're looking for early retirement. They're looking for early options to get out because of the social justice mentality permeating these sectors, to the point where you're inundated with this thought process. Like, you must agree with these things. And if you don't agree, you must remain silent. And if you don't remain silent, you will be pushed out or have your career harmed in some way. And this Air Force longtime active member, clearly in a after 19 plus years in the Air Force, you're in a leadership position, a senior leadership position. You don't stay in for that long without being in a senior leadership position. He's being told, you will report extremism as we define extremism. I was told in a conversation yesterday that the Gadsden flag is a sign of extremism. And anybody flying the Gadsden flag is an extremist. I'm an extremist because I'm taking a piece of American history that was directed at tyrants and telling them at the time, don't mess with us. Don't mess with us. Why is this an extremist position? I believe it was Thomas Jefferson that said, from time to time, the tree of liberty's roots must be fed on the blood of patriots and tyrants. Now, that sounds absolutely terrifying. But was it an extremist position then when he said it? And what would make it an extremist position now if it wasn't then? See, that's the entire point of the Constitution. The entire point of the Constitution is to protect we the people. It's to protect liberty. It's to protect the common welfare. And the common welfare isn't being protected from the coof. The common welfare isn't being protected from having your feelings hurt. The common welfare isn't being protected from being offended. The common welfare isn't being protected from hearing things that you don't want to hear that are true. The common welfare is everybody is free to live their lives according to the Constitution and the laws that are built on the Constitution that don't violate the principles of the Constitution. That's what the common welfare is. So consider the state of Minnesota, where business owners are losing their businesses still to this day because of the damage of the unlawful executive orders. And remember, these are my opinions, and I'm entitled to them, and I'm entitled to share them whether you like them or not. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Governor Walz. I don't care if you're Keith Ellison. I don't care if you're a county attorney or a city attorney. I don't care if you're the local elected dog catcher. I can share my opinions, even if you don't like them, and you don't get to do anything about it. Our governor has forgotten his place, and for the last year has been cracking down, especially on small businesses, especially on bars and restaurants and brew pubs and tap houses and places like that, and cracking down on them, wringing them out of existence. You can't open the newspapers in the Twin Cities area without reading day after day after day about another business that's closing. Almost always some sort of small, locally owned, mom and pop kind of joint that just can't afford to stay in business anymore. Even with restrictions so magnanimously being lifted by our ever so concerned and compassionate commissar of the people's state of Marxist soda. My friend Lisa Hansen, her business is shut down while she fights to keep herself out of jail. For what? She a big horrible criminal? Did she like blow up a competitor's business? Did she threaten the lives of local competition? No. She just opened her doors and said enough's enough. That's it. That's all she did. And so now she's fighting for her life. And I would strongly encourage you guys to check out the Unsafe Space interview with Lisa, where Carter sat down with Lisa for a little over an hour and just let Lisa tell her story and tell why she's fighting the way she's fighting. And she will flat out tell you, as she's been telling everybody for a year, it's not about the interchange. It's about our liberties. It's about our Constitution. It's about doing what's right constitutionally and making people in elected servant positions stand up and take notice. And the very people who are sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution in the United States, the first line of defense, really in many cases, are the military, and they're being inundated, and I keep using the word inculcated, with this leftist correct thought, right think. There again, not political right think, but just, well, it is political, but not the political right kind of thinking. Conservative, traditional military members are being reported as extremist. Christians are being called extremist. Traditional Christians who support the United States and stand for traditional values and constitutional law are being called nationalist in the sense of being labeled Nazis. And those kind of people are being drummed out of the military. Think back to the service members who they found out, these National Guard members voted for Trump, so they kicked them out of Washington, D.C. because they said they couldn't be trusted. So with this video, I'm announcing that I have a website that's coming. And that website's going to feature a actual podcast, not just a video episodes, but I'm going to be doing an actual podcast. I don't know exactly how often and how long that'll be. Might start out micro. I don't know if I can do anything micro. I mean, honestly, I always tell everybody this will be a short video and it still ends up being 17 minutes. So I've yet to get a video that qualifies for quick take on YouTube. So anyway, I've got a website coming. There's going to be a special feature on that website. It's going to be called the Minuteman Citizens Alert. It's going to be for specifically anybody in the law enforcement world who is finding themselves in a position where they're in need of help, whatever that might be. If they're being forced out for wrongthink, they're being if the mental and emotional distress has gotten to be too much for them over towing this line of what's my job mean to me, and how am I supposed to do my job right now in this environment, and I just need somebody to talk to. We're going to be helping law enforcement individuals, and it might expand into other areas as well within that first responder community, but we're going to be helping law enforcement individuals find help, get the help they need, whether it would be somebody that they can talk to in confidence about the emotional and mental distress that they're going through. We're going to be lining them up with those. And we might be expanding it, in fact, probably very quickly, to people in the military who need to get their stories out, who are maybe being threatened to not hold certain positions or not talk about certain positions, so that they can at least vent and get their stories out. So be looking for that, and also be looking for more content through that site. We're going to be working on some merchandise. Yeah, I'm shamelessly self-promoting. I'm not ashamed of it. And it's letters like this that Jack shared on Twitter that are what are prompting me. And it's because there are people out there who take the oath that they swear to defend the Constitution and defend the nation from enemies, foreign and domestic, that they take that oath incredibly serious. It means something to them. It's not just something that they say so that they can have that job and have some guaranteed income. It's something that's important to them because they love this country, and they don't want to see it turned over without a fight. And I don't mean violence, but without some form of debate, without some form of pushback. And they want to maintain the greatness that is the United States. For all of her faults, the USA is the greatest country that has ever existed on the face of the earth. Not just in power, but in its freedoms. And so even for all of her faults, for the horrible, horrible legacy that was chattel slavery in the United States, it's still the greatest country that has ever graced the face of the earth. And that's because it's built on those constitutional principles that allow for freedom, that allow for the pursuit of happiness, that allow for life and liberty, that allow for the common defense of the common welfare. All the things that we have defeated in the history of this country, we defeated because we had the Constitution as our highest ruling authority here on earth and as our bedrock for what drives us. And that is being eroded away. And it's not being eroded away any more than in places like active duty military. When you can strip the Constitution away and get people to toe an agenda, to follow an agenda that has nothing to do with the values of the United States, but everything to do with causing division, the social justice agenda, the leftist thought that is permeating everything in our culture and our society today, especially government. When you can make that happen to the people who have taken an oath to defend the Constitution, the rest of us don't stand a chance. So we need to watch out for our oath takers. We have to. We need to back them. I'm really looking forward to the launch of the website. I really want to thank Michelle for working on it, and I really want to thank her dad who paid for it. Her dad is a Vietnam veteran, and he is a highly decorated member of the California Highway Patrol, retired. And Michelle has shared some of my videos with him, and she said, you need a website. And I said, well, find me a free place to go so we can do that. And she's like, I'll build it for you. And the place that she ended up wanting to go to do that was not working for her and what she wanted to do for my website. And so her dad just stepped up and paid for it. So thank you, Michelle. And much thanks to your dad, sir. I have no way to return the favor. I have no way to thank you sufficiently. And for everybody else who has provided, from my hat to the microphone, all of you, to the music. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Tomski. Thank you, Michelle and your dad. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for the subs. Thank you for the comments and the support for getting my content out there and encouraging people to pay attention. Thank you, Allie, for staying on me to remain positive and to not give up and to start having more confidence. The messages that I have are important. And the more that people come at me and tell me to stop, the more that people come at me and tell me I need to be silent about my thoughts and feelings and views and my opinions, the more I know I'm on the right track. During World War II, the old saying was, you know you're over the target when you start taking flack. And that has become all the more obvious to me over the last several months. I am over the target because the anti-aircraft of the social justice of a leftist ideology that is just running rampant across the United States right now is just being trained on me. My little channel is under a massive barrage of flack. But you're not going to shoot me down. And for those of you out there in the military and those of you that are struggling to maintain your oath, keep it up. Stand strong. Stand firm. You are last line of defense. Sic Semper Tyrannis.